over to you, Mark, for your final case study.
Excellent. Okay, so today I'm going to cover my Prod MBA product from inception to initial prototype, where I came from, where I got to, how I got there, and what I learned along the way. So I started with some initial ideas, with an ideation exercise where I listed all the problems I could think of and also got other people to help me and prioritize them using the nature of the problem, whether it was an acute issue, how addressable the market might be, what my motivation was to fix it. And in the end, I plumped for the option that I had the most motivation to solve, which was that busy people with ADHD struggle to have clarity on the day ahead. Being chronically busy and also struggling with chronic disorganization myself, I understood how hard it was. ADHD people in particular have a struggle with overwhelm. So I wanted to do a simple rundown of things to do today, just on the day ahead, which I felt significantly differentiated it from normal to-do lists and calendars and what have you. So I set about validating the problem by reaching out to my niche and try to book 5 discovery calls to see if my problem statement actually resonated with the people that I thought would be a niche. However, a problem soon became apparent, which was that people on LinkedIn don't talk about their struggles unless it leads to ultimate victory. And certainly, it's not really a place where people are admitting weakness. So I panicked a little bit. I attempted to join some ADHD groups on Reddit and Facebook, also to talk to my personal network to see if I could find anything there. But nobody really suffers with ADHD out of my personal network. And also on Reddit and Facebook, I tended to be rate limited and or marked as a spam seller. So I ended up going back to one of my other problem statements, which also became clear when I was actually talking to my personal network, which was that busy parents with older children struggle to be organized. So I now had a problem statement and also a ready-made niche to reach out to. My plan was to try again to book 5 discovery calls from my personal network, check the specific problem actually resonated with them, and then use the feedback I gathered to create an initial product vision and a strategy. So my discovery calls went very well. 1 out of 4 of them didn't actually have kids, which I didn't know at the time. So we kept that one brief, but the other 4 all very much resonated and started to present with the same issues. The frustrations were that the arrangements were always changing. They didn't have a single place to keep all of their information about who was doing what and when. And there was a lot of worry about missing the events because 1, it upsets the kids, and 2, it makes them look bad ultimately. So I had those frustrations, which I was able to flip into opportunities for me to start thinking about my product vision. And my initial product vision and strategy eventually got fixed by using my niche and their desired outcome. So my niche was the busy families. The desired outcome was beating schedule chaos, and by bringing all of their calendars together in one place was my unique way of doing that. So that was the first phase of my product journey, really. I managed to reach out to my network. I booked 5 calls. I discovered that on those calls that my problem statement was validated, and I created my vision and strategy. So next I moved on to the minimum viable offer. Now that's a way of packaging up my product vision in a way that specifically appeals to my niche and shows that there is appetite for it. What I wanted to do was try to identify and drill down to further pain points to craft the minimum viable offer statement, see if I could get 50% or more sign up from my personal network, because I knew already that they suffered with the same problem. So, obviously the goal is higher than if you're reaching out to random people on LinkedIn. Also to look at the survey completions that anyone had done and see if I could do a blue ocean strategy canvas to differentiate my solution. So I started off with the hero's journey format, try and build up my product story, really empathize with the person that I was aiming the product at and making them the hero of the story, trying to concentrate on what I was transforming them from and where I wanted to take them to. And then I set about, once I'd done that, sort of had that extra empathy and that transformational goal in mind, I set about crafting a minimum viable offer statement, which I had a few iterations on, but eventually I came to, we help working families beat daily chaos by managing your schedules for you. That way, I narrowed it down to working families rather than just busy families. I really wanted to capitalize on that niche where you've got two working parents, a lot of chaos in the house, kids coming and going, people coming and going. And the chaos of daily life was one of the things that kind of kept coming through when I was talking to them. And it wasn't that they wanted a better way of managing them, of managing their calendars and schedules. They wanted someone else to do it for them. They spoke of having a digital a personal assistant. They wished that someone would just do it for them. Someone would tell them where to be. So that was my offer. I then did a blue ocean strategy canvas. Now that is a way of highlighting the strengths and weaknesses of the other existing products that would be around. And although it's a bit cloudy when you first look at it, what I did was I averaged up using the median, the sum of my competitors, to make something that looked a bit clearer. And on the right-hand side, you can see where my product starts to differentiate itself and the other ones start to fall away, which is really about automation and integrating all of the communication channels. Rather than just having a Google Calendar that, yeah, it works well, but it's not necessarily automated. When things change, it doesn't change automatically. So to validate my MVO, I created a website with a sign-up list, a waiting list, sorry. And I asked my niche. I sent it out to 19 people, I think, to my niche. 11 people signed up, and 6 even completed the survey, and their comments were very much validating my original problem statement and the MVO and the work that I'd done on that. So phase 2 done. I'd identified pain points, I'd crafted my MVO, and also I'd validated that more than 50% would be interested in signing up. So the next phase for me was the longer term, to try and drill into what would happen in order for me to turn this into a prototype and then eventually into perhaps an MVP or a soft launch product. What I needed to do was start building a roadmap, finding my way through. I developed some sort of customer journey so I could actually plan out the best onboarding and to get them to their core value as quickly as I could. To maybe understand a bit more about how the business would look in terms of revenue generation, things like that, and to plan a team that I felt would succeed if we did end up scaling up. So as part of a product strategy decider workshop with the MVO firmly in mind, came up with lots of different outcomes that I would definitely need to ensure a successful beta test for prototype. So I then popped those into sequential order from first to last, so I could actually plan myself a kind of early stage roadmap. And I also defined experiments for each of those to ensure that we didn't dive straight into just building things before validating that it was the right thing to do. In order to get my customer to value as quickly as possible, I made a customer journey map. You can see that in the third step, I'm getting them to value, which is to show them where they have to be and when, as quickly as possible. And hopefully the next step to show them that they can include their family in this, which is all part of the core value. And also doing that, I was able to wireframe a few bits up, which I came back to when I was making a prototype. So with our product relying so much on generative AI, because I wanted it to be almost a human interactive experience rather than just reading from a list. I wanted something to be telling people what they needed to do and when, and taking that load off them, cognitive load. My initial thoughts would be that I needed to test the feasibility, because it's not worth continuing with an AI solution if an AI is not capable of reading an email and working out, if there's anything scheduling in there and who has to do what and when. I also created just a small business model type thing using the lean canvas, just to check my cost structure, to look at any advantages I had on anyone else, and what channels maybe I'd be using for marketing. Just a much quicker and simpler way of doing it rather than diving into a huge spreadsheet full of business plan stuff. And I also made a brief team. I'm focusing on the single user experience. I divided it up into kind of user experiences, the single user, the first user, and then how they'd activate their family. And then also strong efforts on how the data would be processed and displayed. So that would be the AI, the complicated subsystem teams there doing the AI stuff. So my longer term strategies mapped out. Got some potential business factors to think about there, and I've got a team kind of topology plan in case we start to scale out. The next step would be to find some product market fit. So obviously the point of doing this is to further validate that our solution's attractive to the niche and also feasible, obviously. So the first thing I wanted to do was to test if a generative AI service could read an email. I wanted to create a low fidelity prototype and then obviously test out that prototype. So the feasibility test, I enlisted 6 or 7, maybe 8 different signups for AI tools and email readers and things like that. I didn't have a lot of luck at all until eventually I had to go with Claude. Sent it, or rather uploaded a couple of email PDFs and asked it some questions, and it was able to identify what was happening and when. So the theoretical knowledge is in place that would be possible. My Figma Lo-Fi prototype was made, which gives a user a kind of initial sketch of how it will work, get them to value quickly, and then I watch their reaction as they're doing it. However, I didn't quite get to the stage of testing on the beta testers, so that's this week and onwards as I start to aim for a product market fit of greater than 1%. Using the product market fit engine. So during my 8-week development, I came up with some core product principles, and they are as follows. Obviously, keeping company mission and product vision front and center is critical to everything that you do. It shapes all of the decisions that you make. And with that in mind, you make the right choices. You do the right things because you're thinking about what you're trying to achieve rather than just a specific feature. The ideal customer is critical because you can end up trying to please everybody and failing rather than just drilling into the person that wants it specifically and not competing with people, competing with other products that you're not necessarily going to please the users of anyway. I learned that my user is the hero, and that my product needs to be their superpower. So rather than making my product the hero, I need to ensure that the user is always the hero. Obviously, focusing on outcomes before thinking of solutions stops us diving into to build mode, which I think a lot of people, specifically people like me, ex-developers, go straight into solution build mode. And also critically, that calling out assumptions just gets you to reframe and rethink everything. If you've decided that something's going to work because you just think it will, then as soon as you start saying, well, is that an assumption or do I know that? Then suddenly everything becomes a lot clearer. And from my own perspective is to stop being a completionist, because I just tend to want to do everything immediately and get it perfect. So perfect is the enemy of good. And that is my Prod MBA journey.
Awesome. I like to leaning into the hero's journey kind of framework,
Yeah.
tying it back towards the end. Good. Mark, I'll do some quick fire feedback and then we will slow down a bit and just talk about general. We get your views on a few things as well. Yeah, I like the bringing in your journey at the beginning. I think even if it's in a business context, if you say you're trying to convince your boss about bringing in the MBA, it does help. It hooks their attention. I think it helps you sort of thread in, make your points more strongly. So it's a useful framework. Problem statement is really clear, and it's great that it's so important to talk about like why this problem and give a bit of build a bit of sort of empathy and depth there, rather than just reading out the problem statement and sort of skipping on to the next one. On the first objective and key result, you did something I call bridging really well. So it's really clear, okay, so from the link from the problem through to the objective to what you tried, and then the diving in a bit deeper to show the discovery learnings, then through the iteration to show how you achieve success. All of those points are really clear. So if I'm like a random person, the narrative it was clear to me, rather than being like, here is my first objective and key results. Objective one, to detach from the problem. Really powerful again, because other people just going to switch off if you don't bridge effectively. You also later on, you did a really nice phrase specifically, I think it was objective 3, quote, the next phase was to look at the longer term. And that's why we did key result 1, 2, 3. Just these really simple little phrases can really go a long way. MBO was good. I liked how you use your own definition. We don't need to use clever words. Don't even need to say the phrase MVO or blue ocean if you show like what are we trying to achieve at that stage. So I thought that was very good. I liked how also with the 50% sign up you caveated it. I think really important, because particularly if at the low end as well, so we're aiming for 5% with PMF, just saying like, no, this is actually quite good. If we get 5%, that's a good outcome. Really important so people can sort of get a sense of good versus bad. Blue ocean, I like the visualization of the aggregation. I wonder if it's a bit misleading though, but users are ultimately choosing a bundle of value. I'm not sure is my point, but I like the visualization, and maybe you do exactly as you did, which is show that and then quickly go, but here's if we break it down by each individual, it's a good way there as you did, right, to just show like here's the sort of general gap. So I thought that was good. And also it's the kind of thing, if you're presenting just on Blue Ocean, like here's the state of the market to stakeholders, you're going to have Q&A. You'll want to have Q&A, in fact, to go into maybe the sort of main competitors. Roadmap, yeah, really good. I thought it was great that you mentioned the importance of experiments. It's so important for stakeholders, as I'm sure you're aware, to not be like, this is exactly what we're going to do. It's like, no, this is the outline. Probably the outcomes won't change, but how we deliver will differ. Lean Canvas, a good explanation of what it is, but you didn't drill into some of the key business topics. I'll come to that later, in fact, sort of general feedback. On the testing, just send me a really quick Loom recording of just going over the results. I'm genuinely curious to see what happened with it, and I think even just doing one user test, you'll find it's really interesting, and you'll get some really good learnings for yourself as well as on the concept. So do just quick Loom, or even just a quick email update. I'm interested to see what happens with this specific offer. I suspect you're going to get quite good feedback, in fact, around the concept. Good. And just zooming out, I think there's sort of 3. Do I have 3 or 4? Yeah, no, 4. I think I've got 4 pieces of feedback that I'd love to get your views on as well. So I think the first one, I thought you were good at getting insight, like good pure discovery of coming in with quite an open mind. And yours is actually one of the felt genuinely unique. It felt quite underserved as a market. And I like how and this is what good companies do, in fact. If you look at companies like Slack pivoting from gaming into it's a completely different product. Twitter went from podcast platform to general social media. I like that you evolved from ADHD into families quite quickly. Because as you saw, you get a sense pretty quickly. I've done a similar thing recently. You get a sense pretty quickly, and it's good to just go move with that and be extremely agile at the early stage. Second one, I think you're, as today showed as well, you very strong, not just clarity with communication and leadership, but you're quite charismatic. I think that's something to really sort of double down on in your
Okay.
work. And I think two areas to improve upon. One, product strategy, I think is good, but to get you now, someone quite senior, to the next level, go through like the advanced videos. You need to have a good understanding of defensibility. Looking at other products and just immediately understand like what are they trying to do in terms of their strategy. And I also think that's important because if you want to really plant a flag in terms of this is what I think we should do with the product strategy, the more confident you are with that, the more likely you're going to be actually to push the agenda and then stick with it as well.
Yeah. 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 That's useful.
So that would be one thing. And then the second one, I'm not yeah, it's hard to say if this is a weakness or not because I haven't had enough specific touch point on this specific topic with you. But the lack of business hat, like for example, by not mentioning it today, I would want to see from a good senior product person a pretty, detailed, at least a couple of paragraphs spoken on potential revenue models, why you thought, idea A was better than B and C. Quick
Yeah.
discussion on like cost versus revenue and why you think this could be profitable, touching upon defensibility, so the unfair advantage box as well. Just comfortable, confident discussion about, hey, I've got my business. How I get, Mr. Stakeholder, that this is really the main thing you're actually going to be worried about. Because they're going to come out of this going like, Mark, great guy, interesting, charismatic, seems to be good at product. Is he a good business person? It's a question mark if you had just watched that presentation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So just demonstrate. Some people, so we've had students that are really good at this, where you just know that they want to know this stuff and really sort of signal it and sort of show it. Or in an interview, same thing, right? Really sort of show off. Yeah, I get it. Product's not just about users; it is about the business as well, ultimately.
Yeah.
But I mean, where do you feel coming out of Prod MBA now? Like any specific areas you want to sort of improve upon?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, to be honest. I think my business knowledge in general could probably be improved. Well, could definitely be improved, but it's knowledge of costs and pricing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that is really, there's some dark arts in there that I don't know and I haven't had a great deal of experience in.
And I'd say, I was going to say, so you feel that comes from experience. Do you think there's something that's maybe not, like many people I know have this sort of like business as a dirty word mindset,
Yeah,
which
there's
sort
a
of
lot
makes
of that.
sense in many cases.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't. Ultimately it's about value creation. If you can't, for example, like if Prod MBA wasn't profitable, I'm not financially driven, but if it's not profitable, there's no business, quite
Yep.
simply. Same thing with bigger companies as well. So I think, always come back to, if you want to help the user, you got to help the business. And that comes down to numbers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I would say, look, really simple on that. Go through there's quite a few bonus videos around like just simple like finance one-on-one is a good one. Going back to some of the revenue models, pricing, these kind of things as well.
Yes.
And just sort of throw yourself into it. Because it's also it's better if you as someone that is, let's say, a positive business influence to be putting a product in someone's hands than someone who has a different mindset.
Yeah.
So I'd say
Okay.
try and throw yourself into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is I had a similar mindset, and then it was a real shift actually when I sort of realized that actually we're, sales, for example, ultimately it's about value creation and helping
Yeah,
people.
there's a slight confidence thing in there as well, which is you're sort of spending someone else's money in a way. Like, I mean, that's where stuff really gets gritty, is when you're like, I think we
Yeah,
should
for sure.
price at this, or I think we should have this revenue cost. Or,
Yeah, and you got to deliver. But again,
yep,
it adds a good amount of tension. You got to deliver, which is good because then you will get better with the
yep,
product.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it think Prod MBA first version absolutely an idea? Is it, is this going to work out? And then you quickly go, actually, yeah, it is. And then,
yeah,
as it improves, you start ratcheting up the price. So just don't think about it as dirty word. I think just do try and build an interest in that, because I think that will, It will definitely hold you back. And it'll probably be the only thing that holds you back, in fact.
Mm.
As I said, product strategy, it's good. I think, you can
I need
obviously
to
go a
improve
bit
on
more
that as
advanced.
well, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
clearly.
they work together as well, right? So I think really dive into that, and then you've got a really well-rounded skill set
Yeah. Yeah,
to go
yeah.
to the next stage. Awesome. Well, look, we'll
Great.
wrap up there. Yeah, it's been fun having you on this cohort,
Yeah,
and
it's been great.
no, I'm glad to hear as well. And it's cool to hear. I read your post. When was it? Just yesterday, wasn't it, about coaching?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was really good. And I've done quite a lot of the blue oceany stuff. I've done all
That was the
kinds of,
hero's journey. And
yeah,
it's
I've done the hero's
that
journey.
was
I've
it. Yeah,
done
yeah.
all that kind of thing. And I've now been using a lot of AI stuff. I was on your webinar on LinkedIn
Oh,
today,
nice.
actually, but it's interesting
Okay.
because I've been using it to do a bit of that kind
Mm.
of customer feedback analysis and all that kind of thing. So getting there.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It sounds like everything's in place,
Yeah.
apart from just, again, you don't need to like throw yourself at it. Just start doing a bit of time every week on product strategy and some business topics as well.
Yeah, I
And I
will
think
do.
you have this sort of complete package. Awesome. Well, look, let's stay in touch. Keep posting on the group. And yeah, honestly, any help at all. Like, say you want to run a workshop, you want a bit of advice, like, do reach out.
I will do.
We'll
That's really
be
cool.
happy to help as well. Awesome. Well, look, hopefully
Great
see you
stuff.
at the next meetup if you can get away from the kids.
Yeah, I'll
On
try.
Thursday night. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll stay in touch anyway. Cheers,
Excellent.
Mark.
Thanks a lot,
Have a
Henry.
good one.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.